Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. 3 martinis coming up.
Very glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Back to our usual fare today of good, bad, and I think actually 2 crazy martinis today. If you haven't heard our special podcast from Monday with Special Agent Johnson, really, actor, director, singer Robert Davi, you really need to. You really need to. It's a fantastic conversation on so many things, from his role in Reagan, why he wanted to be part of the project, being a conservative in Hollywood, and of course our unforgettable conversation about Die Hard, dueling Schwarzenegger impressions from Davi and Jim Garrity. Just fantastic. And for any of those worried that we're getting away from our usual fare since we've had a couple of guests in the last couple of weeks, don't worry. Nothing fundamentally overall is changing, but when you have a chance to speak with Special Agent Johnson, you take it.
Yeah, as I said yesterday, this is one of those interviews. How did we not do this before? But for those who are afraid we're shifting to an interview-focused, guest-focused format, no, Greg is still hardworking and I am still lazy. And booking these guests requires work. And it's kind of just, as someone comes along who we think would be a good guest, and we are not inviting guests. I get, it used to be a good marker of who didn't really listen to the show when they, some PR guy would pitch somebody. But Davi and the Reagan, movie was a great thing to talk about, and Tevi has been a friend of the program for a very long time. So it's just, as these things come up, we will break up our usual fare. Don't worry if you don't like it. Don't worry about it. I hope you'll like it. I think you should like it. These are fun interviews. So
let's get into our good martini today. And Jim, for those of us who live in Virginia and are conservatives, the last almost 3 years have been a nice break from a lot of craziness in Richmond. Just 5 years ago, we had a Democrat who was governor and was pushing maybe ending the lives of babies after they were born. We'll make a decision. Remember that whole thing? And then there was the Klansman outfit in the yearbook.
Do you mean Governor Coonman? Do you mean, the Klansman and blackface? The guy who didn't get forced out because the lieutenant governor was accused of rape, and the attorney general had also worn black. That winning lineup put forth by Virginia Democrats, yes.
Yes. And then Terry McAuliffe with his gaffe was definitely helpful in getting us Glenn Youngkin, who's been a terrific governor in most cases. There's been a couple of quibbles we've had along the way, but overall, very, very strong governor. Winsome Sears is his lieutenant governor, and the quirk of Virginia is you can only serve one term. You can come back 4 years later, but you can't run directly for re-election. So Glenn Youngkin can't run for re-election. Winsome Sears announcing a couple of days ago that she is, in fact, going to run for governor. I think the Attorney General, Jason Miyares, is planning to do that as well, so it could be a pretty vigorous primary. But love Winsome Sears, and here's just a little bit of her announcement video.
Like my father, I never backed down from a fight. As an immigrant, mother, a United States Marine, a business owner, and now, as your lieutenant governor, I'm living the American dream. Just like in the Marines, we can either choose to improvise, adapt, and overcome, or we can risk falling backwards. Extreme liberal policies have led some states down a path of decline. But here in Virginia, common sense conservative leadership has refueled our birth. We've cut taxes, defended our rights, supported our veterans, and put Virginia's economy back on track.
And so, unlike another number 2 who is seeking a higher office, she is very much embracing the record of the current governor. Glenn Youngkin was very much in the video when she says, common sense conservative leadership is moving us forward. She's going to be a continuation of that. So unlike Kamala saying, what? Why do you think I had anything to do with the last 3 years? You've got Winsome Sears with her great personal story and doing a great job as lieutenant governor as well. It's going to be tough to win, I think, twice for Republicans in Virginia. But hey, if Winsome Sears is our next governor, I'll be plenty happy.
I concur, Greg. Look, I am not anti-primary. I think primaries, when they go the right way, strengthen candidates. And I am a fan of Winsome Sears. I am a fan of our Attorney General, Jason Miyares. I would love to have in fact, maybe we should have a beer summit, Greg. We should offer and say, look, you are 2 terrific Republican office holders. One of you should be the next governor. one of you can do some other job. Jason, you've done a terrific job as Attorney General. You can run for more than one term as Attorney General, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Or Lieutenant Governor. Yes.
So, like, if you want to be Lieutenant Governor to Sears, hey, maybe that's a good idea. Do you want to be Attorney General for another 4 years? You've done a great job. If you run for Attorney General for another 4 years, could everybody in the Virginia Republican Party agree, okay, it's Jason's turn 4 years from now, right? Do we, if we can avoid the primary and everybody has a role that they want, and that, great. If we're going to have a primary, that's fine. Let it be hard fought. Let the best candidate win. I just don't want to see a situation where Bill Bolling, who was the lieutenant governor of Virginia under Bob McDonnell, decided he wanted to be the nominee, as did then State Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli. Ken Cuccinelli won the primary, and Bill Bolling basically said, I'm going to take my bat and my ball and I'm going to go home. I'm not going to play with you guys anymore. And there were a bunch of, really nothing was going well for the Republicans in 2013. But this is the election that ended up with Terry McAuliffe winning the first, in his first bid. He lost his second bid last time. I suppose Terry McAuliffe does stand out as a successful Democratic governor in the fact that he's, as far as we know, never worn blackface. No one's ever called him Coon Man. And he's never been, he's never said, I can't tell if that's me in the Klan photo. He's wearing a hood. How am I supposed to know if it's me or not? So by that standard, but really, like, Republican infighting was a major factor in what struck me as a really frustrating defeat in 2013. So, hopefully Virginia Republican, and it's not, everybody deserves a shot, but if you lose the primary fair and square, you should come out and say, good job, endorse the winner, and try to help them get elected, and look for another role to help in the state government. And Lord knows we don't have enough Democrats in Virginia who could use a good challenger. So there's always opportunities. No reason to hopefully this is, you and I are talking, this is all sounds like crazy talk a year from now, and everybody's singing Kumbaya, and all the Republicans are unified, and they end up with a good win. We'll see what happens, but good luck, Winsome Sears. It's likely a very strong contender next year.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. First of all, the Republicans need to decide on a process. I remember when it was Cuccinelli and Bolling, they had a convention, not a primary. And then last time, when it was Youngkin and Pete Snyder and a bunch of other guys, they had a firehouse primary. So basically, Republicans had to drive to various locations. It wasn't run at your local polling places. I think it's because they didn't want Democrats infiltrating the open primary process, because there is no party registration in Virginia. So whether it would be a normal primary, firehouse primary, convention, that all has to be determined as well. The other thing I would say is, you see the resume of Winsome Sears, and people will say, oh, well, you guys are doing the same thing with the black woman immigrant. No. Winsome Sears is a strong conservative with principled positions on a number of issues, and she happens to be a black immigrant woman, and that's fantastic. The key is what type of leader she would be, not just checking the box on all these different things, and that's the difference between the way the two parties look at this.
We're extremely pro-black woman immigrant conservatives. We are extremely anti-black woman. By the way, Kamala Harris is not an immigrant. We are extremely anti-black woman immigrant progressives. But do you see that last word in the sentence there, and how decisive that is, and how that really plays the key factor in whether or not we're supportive of a candidate? Almost like we're judging people on their ideology, policies, record, and statements and worldview, and not by the color of their skin or their gender or where they're born. The only time that would matter is if you're running for president. Winsome Sears cannot become president of the United States.
Yeah, very well stated. There's a huge difference there. All right. Well, while you're keeping up on Virginia politics like we are, as well as the presidential race, which we'll talk about in just a second, you also want to keep up on your health. And there's no easier way to do it than with Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach. Are you capable of waking up in the morning? Good. Can you breathe? Excellent.
If you aren't, what are you doing listening to this podcast?
If you don't wake up, then ignore the rest of what I'm saying. But all you have to do is take a deep breath, breathe into your Lumen, and it'll tell you whether you're burning fat or carbs. And then it'll give you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition. And then also gives you insights on workout, sleep, and even stress management.
Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food that you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a whole host of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and even better sleep. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health.
So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/3ml to get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/3ml for 15% off your purchase. Again, that's lumen.me/3ml. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. All right, Jim, on to our second martini now. Kind of crazy, but a little bit of a debate preview. We actually had one at the prompting of Mr. Davi yesterday. We'll go into a little more depth today. And one of the issues that I'm sure will come up, at least in some way, whether it's the moderators or through Trump, is that Kamala Harris's positions have changed a lot since her previous run for president in 2019. She didn't even get to 2020. Yesterday, CNN on the K-File talked about her immigration positions. She wanted to end ICE detainers. She wanted taxpayer funding for transgender surgeries for migrants and all sorts of things. But then there were the Sunday morning shows and other commentary here about the changing positions. First of all, here's Kristen Welker and Bernie Sanders on Meet the Press.
She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
Well, that's points for honesty for Bernie Sanders, but basically he's saying that, it's okay if you don't talk about this stuff because I know it'll stop you from winning. And then there was Casey Hunt talking with Ian Sams, who's the national spokesperson for the Harris-Walz campaign, about, how is Harris specifically different from what Biden and Harris have done for the last 3.5 years?
What is it about what you guys have been doing for the last 3+ years that explains that?
Well, I think, again, we're trying to talk to the voters and explain this message. We've got 60 days until the election. We don't have time to sit around and think about why over the last few years certain things may have happened or may not have happened. We've got to go win an election. And the vice president's doing that by talking about her economic vision. And it's really different. It's really different. It's a new way forward, not only for the Democratic Party, but for the country. It's really different.
Yeah. We don't have time to talk about the last 3 years. That's a great line. So basically, both candidates, I'm sure, will try to put the other on the defensive. There's been some speculation that Kamala's going to treat this like a prosecution, and then her closing statement will be like a summation to the jury. Trump, again, like I said after the first debate, probably needs a few more specifics, but obviously Biden torpedoed himself in that debate. So staying aggressive and putting her on the defensive will probably help. How do you expect it to unfold here tonight?
Well, Greg, I do feel obligated to mention that before the last debate, I don't know if it was on this podcast, but definitely in the Morning Jolt newsletter, I'd said, I don't expect the Trump-Biden debate to change much. And all that changed was the entire race. So if anyone wants to take me with as many grains of salt, feel free. What I figured was that Biden would be good enough, and that the media hype would insist that, he'd been the greatest orator since Cicero. And instead, the Biden we saw was the Biden we had suspected had existed for quite some time behind the scenes, doddering out of it when we finally defeat Medicare. And just, you could argue within the first 10 minutes that debate was over, particularly when Trump said, I don't know what he said, and I'm not sure he knows what he said either. So Trump is capable of delivering a really good zinger when the opportunity arises. I was thinking about this, Trump really is a known quantity. He's been president. People know what his policies are going to be. People know what his temperament is going to be. So it's really hard to see a scenario. I know that the Harris campaign was going to try to provoke him and really wanted the mics to be open. Look, maybe Trump will have some moment where he loses his cool or comes across as bullying or snapping at her or something. But I feel like this is all kind of priced in. I really have a hard time envisioning what Trump could do on a debate stage that would really, change, drop his support or people say, wow, this really changed the debate. Again, I was wrong on the last one. So it's conceivable, but I just feel like Trump, people know what they think of Trump. They either love him or they hate him, and it's pretty straightforward. And by the way, this whole idea in which Harris plays a prosecutor, I feel like the argument against Trump has been made and remade almost every day since he descended the escalator back in 2015. I have a hard. I think if there's a blank to be filled in there, it's what are you going to do, Kamala Harris, as off? Why do you have all these positions for 2019? that your spokesmen say aren't your positions anymore. Well, what happened? And if you want to say, I learned more and I changed my mind and here's why, fine, go right ahead. Right now, it sounds like, as you said with Bernie Sanders said, my agenda is very unpopular. And I need to make sure no one actually knows she's going to try to enact that agenda. So I could see she does something quite bad. I could see a scenario where she goes out and, I don't know, whether it's giggles or just comes across as too focused on attacking and evasive on what she actually wants to do. I don't think this line, my values have not changed, are this magic wand that she seemed to think it was in the Dana Bash interview. So I can see a scenario where she has a very shaky night and things are not bad. And the other thing we should point out is that right now this race looks like it's going to be closer than 2016, looks like it's going to be closer for 2020. That is not good news for Kamala Harris. All these national polls that have it tied, you really got to look hard to find a swing state poll that has either Trump or Harris up by more than 3 points, which means everything's within the margin of error. You know, Trump could win all 7 swing states. He could also lose all 7 swing states, but chances are you're probably going to see him split, and we're going to have a very close election, which is, and this is after, I ran the number, it's been 51 days since she got the nomination. She hasn't had a bad coverage day in that 7 weeks and change. So you add it all up, the pressure's on her tonight. We'll see how it shakes out. But the fact that they're terrified of having her answer questions makes this one of the higher tension moments of what has already been a very dramatic campaign season.
No, I think that's largely correct. And I'll be interested to see if she still tries to interrupt, even though she's muted while Trump's talking, just to see what kind of reaction she can get out of him and throw him off a little bit.
I'm speaking now, please. Excuse me. I'm speaking. He actually does it. Excuse me.
Yes, he does that a lot. And we'll see what the moderators do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation about what Jake Tapper and Dana Bash would have done, and they did not put their thumb on the scale. More, at least to the extent that you would expect from the mainstream media. It was about as fair as you could have expected. Now with this group from ABC, remember there's a lot of complaints from the Biden campaign about last time. Oh, they didn't interject to correct Trump when we thought he was lying.
They didn't do our job for us.
Yes. The job of correction is the other candidate, not the moderator. Dana Bash a couple times did say, you still have 60 seconds left. How about you try answering the question to both of them a couple of times. But if they start to interrupt Trump as he answers and saying, oh, no, our fact check shows this, I think that could potentially throw him off, and they won't do it for Harris. That's the worst case scenario in terms of the moderators. Hopefully, they're a pleasant surprise. All right, on to our final martini, our crazy martini, and the focus of today's morning jolt. We've had the start of the NFL season, so people like us, Jim,
did it start? I didn't see anything last night. I did not. I certainly did not see a prepared professional football team ready to go into San Francisco and take care of business. No, I saw. Hopefully, season starts next week.
Combined, our team scored 1 offensive touchdown this week. The Bears managed to win because they had 2 touchdowns that the offense had nothing to do with. And the Jets had that's a tough assignment. First game of the season at San Francisco, the defending NFC champion. On Thursday night, we started the season with Chiefs versus Ravens, and it's kind of like the groundhog for sports fans who don't care that much about pop culture. Oh, Taylor Swift is in the Chiefs box again. And then she was at the U.S. Open with Travis Kelce, and all this buzz starts happening again. But as you point out, Jim, we're now in September. We're past the conventions. We're past Labor Day. There had been a rumor that Taylor might be the special guest at the Democratic convention on the last night that turned out to be neither her nor Beyonce. In fact, it was just Kamala. But now they're very, very upset that Taylor Swift is not yet endorsing Kamala Harris. It may still be coming, but what does it say about the left that they're panicking about whether a pop star is going to get on board here?
Yeah, and by the way, whenever we discuss celebrity in this context, there was somebody who say, Jim, Greg, we don't care. Why are you talking? Well, it's not that we're choosing to talk about Taylor Swift. I mean, I guess technically we do pick our own topics, but we're talking about the phenomenon reflected by the fact that certain people, certain Kamala Harris fans and certain Democrats are livid that she has not endorsed Kamala Harris yet. And I guess there's no sign of that, endorsement coming anytime soon. So, that's the interesting phenomenon. Not that, although I think as I kind of begrudgingly acknowledge, she endorsed Biden 4 years ago. She endorsed some Tennessee Democrats back in the 2018 midterms. You look at her past writings, her lyrics, her Twitter feed and things like that. Like there's no doubt this is a woman who's on much more on the left than on the right. I don't think there's any dispute about that. For everybody's like, well, it's the Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, Pfizer ads, Bud Light ads, took a knee during the national anthem. I don't think there's any reason to think that either of these, I think we can surmise how they're going to vote. But it is kind of interesting that in an era where almost everyone in Hollywood has done their part, I'm thinking of the Starship Troopers movie, I'm doing my part to help the Democrats beat Donald Trump. Taylor Swift has not done it. And I went back and I checked. I remembered earlier this year, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, in an interview with Will Cain, said, I'm not endorsing anybody this year. And he had endorsed Biden 4 years ago. And he said he realized his aim is to unite the country, and that by endorsing a candidate, he had done something that was just inherently divisive and just wasn't worth it to him. And so he wasn't going to, he says, it's between me and the ballot box. I think that's kind of interesting. I think that's a backlash to the politicization of celebrities. And I think that both Taylor Swift and Dwayne Johnson, again, I don't think there's any reason to think they're voting for Trump. I don't think there's any reason to think they're Republicans or that they're conservatives. I suppose a cynic might say it's a bit of that old Michael Jordan line, Republicans buy shoes too. But I think they've also just got to realize that's a partisan, I love this party, I love this ideology, here are my politics, I wear them on my sleeve, just isn't a role they want to play. And first of all, I think it's very healthy for the country. I think it's very good. I don't let you and I look, this podcast is about politics. You and I talk about politics. Everybody knows what they're in here for. And if anything, it's the other way that goes around. I suppose there is a few listeners who say, I really thought this was a Die Hard podcast. And every day you guys talk mostly about politics, and then finally you talk about Die Hard. And the reaction, I use this, Variety's chief correspondent, Daniel Daddario, wrote this whole column, just the horror, not just that Taylor Swift has not endorsed Kamala Harris, but that she's still hanging around with Brittany Mahomes, the wife of Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. Brittany Mahomes, I guess, is, semi-open or has liked Trump's stuff on Instagram in the past. Ergo, she's a Trump supporter. And how dare Taylor Swift hang out with a Donald Trump supporter? My suspicion is lots of Americans, you add up all of their friends, you add up all their family members, you add up all the people they know, chances are they know somebody who voted for the other party in the last election and who's going to vote for a different party than them in the current election. And they're okay with it because they don't want to disown their parents or their in-laws or their brother or their sister or their neighbor or their best friend. Like we used to do this all the time. Somebody you know voting a different party than you really wasn't a big deal. And only in the last couple of years has it turned into how to lecture your uncle at the Thanksgiving dinner table and all those other stuff like that. I have a strong suspicion about which side decided to make the personal political. But maybe you could make an argument that, both parties have poured gasoline on the fire. Well, here's Taylor Swift, and it hasn't happened by today, September 10th. You kind of, everybody thought, it's going to happen at the convention. Didn't happen at the convention. It's not like if Taylor Swift wanted to endorse Kamala Harris, she could do it, immediately. She hasn't done it, which I think means she just doesn't want to get sucked into the hurricane of hellfire that is the 2024 presidential election or any other level of election. And that's fine. That's her right as an American. I don't think she's betraying you or anybody else by keeping her political views to herself. And I think this reaction by the guy at Variety and some of these other corners is really unhealthy. And it is basically this declaration that even if you vote for the candidate we prefer, if you do not publicly endorse them, you have somehow betrayed us. You are one of our enemies. You are helping the enemy, and you're on a suspect list. It's kind of like everybody who doesn't have a Harris sign here in Fairfax County.
Well, and it says something that they think they need to generate buzz for a candidate through entertainment. Now, they got a lot more options because there's a lot more entertainers that like the left. But remember, the Atlanta appearance for Kamala Harris started with a Megan Thee Stallion concert. And then people were basically filing out while Kamala was still talking. And there are other concerts along the way, too. So it's almost like they need to gin people up with things that are unrelated to politics. Now, the Republicans have a kind of a celebrity as a candidate and has been a celebrity for a long time. But even before that, it's not like they were rolling out. I mean, Wilford Brimley, you can say, was a celebrity, but, I don't think people were turning out because, oh, my gosh, Wilford Brimley loves John McCain.
We've all seen the throngs of women throwing underwear on stage for Lee Greenwood. We know. Yeah, every convention. Look, we had Hulk Hogan at the Republican convention. We had Dana White. We both parties love celebrities. That by itself is not going to happen. I think what has changed now is this idea that by not taking a stand, that Taylor Swift has somehow committed some sin, or that she's somehow done something wrong by not taking a stand. I think that's a dangerous move into new levels of political obsession, I think.
Last minute here, Jim. We cannot leave without a quick champagne toast to the great James Earl Jones. Obviously, the voice of Darth Vader, probably his most iconic role. But you and I, of course, love him as Jim Greer from the Tom Clancy movies, Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, and so forth. So many other things, Lion King, Field of Dreams. The greatest voice, or at least one of the greatest voices we've ever heard. So big loss.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was surprised. I did not know that he was an Army veteran. Somebody had said, our frame of reference on this podcast is very Generation X. And he observed that, if you're of our age, you grew up with him as the voice of Darth Vader. Into adolescence, you see him in roles like Jim Greer and various other ones. You, chances are, in the most, memorable events of your adulthood, at some point you were hearing, "This is CNN." Or for younger, for the younger audiences, the voice of Simba,
Mufasa,
his voice
Jim,
was part of this. Mufasa, I'm sorry, yeah. So Simba was the baby lion. Look, it's in between my youth and my kids' youth. I have a blind spot there, but I cannot feel the love tonight. But the bottom line is that his voice was part of the soundtrack of our lives, and I think probably one of the best tributes I had seen. I hope no one finds this sacrilegious or blasphemous. From the Babylon Bee announcing that from now on, James Earl Jones will be doing the voiceover work for God.
Well, he did do a voiceover of the King James Bible, so in some sense, he kind of already is the voice. But absolutely incredible talent. Again, just a generational figure, and so a tremendous, tremendous loss. Plenty to watch in honor of him in the days ahead. So, Jim, good luck with the debate tonight with all the live blogging, and we'll have plenty to say about it tomorrow. See you then.
Talk to you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you don't already, please tell your friends and family as well. Love to have them listening. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a terrific Tuesday and join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.